y'all doing? If y'all are new to the channel, I do lifestyle rearrangement content, and the topic of today's video is don't fight your emotions, learn them. Well, this is kind of an emotional topic. It's not really meant to be like the most crazy topic out there, but you know, it's something, right? It's mostly about crying and stuff, right? Like, I know it may sound a little whatever, like, you know, you can scroll if you want, but this is mostly towards males. You know, I've heard that females have, you know, dealt with it too. I don't know why, you know, but, you know, it was mostly from the start. It started off with males, right? We've came up with a perception as young men that we can't cry, but whoever put that out there had the wrong interpretation. You're not supposed to hide your emotions, you're supposed to learn them. How? By finding out what actually triggers you. The problem is that sometimes when we cry, we don't know why we are crying, but that's where God comes in. Crying is a reaction to an emotion, whether happy, sad, or mad. Crying is also developed from energy. Our emotions were meant to be calmed by either breathing, talking, or crying. If you can't cry or talk, you will result into breathing, which then turns into crying due to overstimulation or relaxation. Couldn't put everything in there because if I did, it would become basically a whole science class. Crying is a result to either a relaxed or overstimulated feeling, right? So it could be in a situation where you're happy, situation where you're sad, situation where you're mad, and all of those predicaments, depending on the situation, you may be overstimulated. And if you're happy, there's a possibility that you may feel relaxed. Even sad, you may still feel relaxed. But crying comes in as a result of those emotions, right? Overstimulation, right? And you can't tell somebody not to cry. You can ask somebody why they're crying. You can't tell anybody that their reason for crying is stupid, because at the end of the day, if I'm being totally honest with you, crying is different for everybody. So while this person may feel like, okay, crying for this makes sense, somebody else may be like, nah, I'm crying for that ain't whatever. But you gotta understand that everybody has a different perception of life. Everybody has a different perception of emotions. And some people, like, have a different reasoning for feeling a certain emotion that they have. So it could have been childhood issues they dealt with, something they dealt with in the past. You know, it could have been something that they didn't even remember that they may cry for because of how they felt when that situation was taking place. So we are so used to hearing that whole don't cry thing, don't this, don't that. Well, and crying is an emotion of God. That's why I said in the script that it relates to God. Because crying is, not an emotion from God, but crying was gifted as a reaction for whatever emotion we put out, or whatever energy was in the air. So it's like if you see somebody else cry, right? And it's like a very emotional situation. While you may have, if you were by yourself, may have not cried about that specific thing, they might cry about it, and you're like, you know, you may feel a certain type of way because, like, nah, don't do that because you're going to make me cry. And there's some people that have been in that type of predicament. Knowing what you're crying for will make things easier. Because an emotion is nothing without reasoning. So if I'm mad but I don't know why I'm mad, I gotta fix that. If I'm sad, I don't know why I'm sad, I gotta fix that. If I'm happy, I don't know why I'm happy, you need to fix that. You need to study yourself. What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What makes you angry? However you want to say it. But you have to figure out your emotions. You have to figure out why you feel certain emotions, when you feel some certain emotions, when certain energies are around, how do you feel? You have to start studying how you feel. have to start studying your emotions. You have to start understanding yourself. Sometimes we're worried so much about understanding other people and this person and that person that we forget to study ourselves. Sorry, I saw a squirrel. To study ourselves. And it's like, we're also important. Should not just be, important to other people. Because sometimes we go around and like, I'm not important to you. That's not important. What's important is, are you important to yourself? How do you take care of yourself? How do you, sometimes we are very confused because we think, I'm my own person. We still have a God. We still have if you don't have a father, no disrespect. I mean this I promise you, I mean this very respectful. You have God. That's where God comes in. I have my father, so I can't speak too much about it. What I'm saying is that if you have nobody else to do certain things for, do them for God. Why should you do them for God? Because if you read the Bible, it says God loved us even before we knew him. Why is God described as a guy? Because a father is the one who, if you have a father and a mother in a household, a father is usually the one that instills the authority. So that's why God is given the title father and not mother. Because the father is there to set things straight, to structure things, and to add the authority. It's like adding the roof to a home. It's kind of like that, right? The protector, you know what I'm saying? Because, males are usually the protective figure or the stricter figure, and just the masculine, more masculine side of things. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's why you have feminism, masculinity, and you have that. So that's where, just to clear things up, why we call God a man or the father, or yes, right? Because he is an authoritative figure, right? Now back to an emotion. Crying. The reason why crying is so put down and people look down on people. Oh, you're crying. It's not the crying that's the issue. It's not knowing what you're crying for. God told us not to fear, not to worry, and things of that nature. God told us not to be angered by small things, or not letting anger take over our mind. And God talked about these things. So if you go against God's word, and he told you, he said, okay, do not be worried, do not fear, do not be angered, or not let your anger get to you. You know what I'm saying? Do not let the words of people get to you. He never said not to be sad, but basically the overall message of that is that doesn't have to be your life. That's the overall message for that. That doesn't have to be your life. Sometimes we get sad. Sometimes we're kind of angry. We don't know why. The overall message of that is learn your emotions. Because you can't learn your emotions, because you can't say I'm sad and not know why you're sad. Sometimes all it takes is to breathe or to talk. That's why God is a thing, because there are people who are confused about their emotions and confused on what they are because they don't have God in their life. The atheists and the people that do certain things have not even been in a situation where they have said to God, God, show me who you are. Show me why I need you. Show me, how can I say it? God, help me to be in a predicament where I only have to rely on you. Where God, it will only have to be you who can rescue me and get me where I need to go. Put me in that type of predicament. There are atheists and people out here that don't believe in God, who have never said God, who have never said to God, God, show me who you are. Show me that you are real. Show me something that relates to, okay, God, show me you are who you say you are. And people don't do that. And that's the thing. People don't want to do that because they're scared. They're worried. They're anxious. They're like, I don't want to do that because they know something. That part of knowing comes from the original desire of, how can I say it? Of to know God. Yes, the original desire to know God. That's where that comes from. So while you may have grew up to not believe in God, there is a desire in you, a small desire, not too small, but a small desire that always wanted to know God, always wanted to have God within you. You have God somewhere within you. There's some type of reaction in you, even if it's not from, like, anybody can hear Jesus Christ and not feel a certain type of way. Well, I don't know, but I know there are some people out here who hear the name God, Jesus Christ, and they get shook. They're like, yeah. Why do you think you get that feeling? At the end of the day, like I said, there is always in anybody a tiny feeling, even if you don't believe in him, meaning if you don't believe in him, this is if you don't believe in him, there's this tiny gap in your heart or irk in your soul for God or to know God. There's something there. And you know why some of these atheists and some of these people who don't believe in God have never tried it, have never talked to God, have never said, God, show yourself. God, help me to show myself to you. God, help me to, God, do whatever you need to do in order for, do everything you need to do in your power in order for me to find out who you are. Or God, help me to find out if you're real. Something. I don't know. Something. Regardless of me being in a family that is, well, yeah, things have happened, but I'm not going to say too much. The point is, got a family, besides me being in a family that was mostly about God, because sometimes God is not, like, people think God is this church narrative and God is this religious narrative, and God is just God. God is just God. God is just God. It's not a religion, it's not this, and not, God is just God. So growing up in different parts, growing up in different spaces of religions and relationships, meaning with God, things of that nature, I kind of found like I found my own personal relationship, personal, how I shape myself. So sometimes people think, oh yeah, well, you're not a Christian, or you're a Christian because of whatever. Sometimes people are still finding certain things out. Some people just don't know things yet. Some of us just don't know things yet. So it goes back to my original point. God told us not to fear, not to worry, not to be angered, and not to basically let our emotions take over our mind, because sometimes that's where that depressed narrative comes from. We say, oh yeah, I'm depressed because you don't know how you feel or why you feel the way you feel, but you never want to ask a question. God, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? What's wrong in your life? What are you doing wrong? Sometimes you got to think about that. You thinking about what did somebody do to you? You're thinking about what happened? What did you do to you? You got to ask yourself that question. What did you do to you? Once you start to ask yourself that question, then you'll start to like, what did I do? Start asking that question. And don't ask it because I'm like, oh, I couldn't have did anything. No, ask because you really want to know, because you're really curious. What did you do? Ask yourself that question. What went on yesterday? What went on today? What did I deny? What did I not do that I needed to do? What did I forget? Sometimes put it all on yourself. It's like, for example, right? Somebody that is in a specific predicament where they've had a toxic household, toxic that, right? They got to a certain age where, okay, I could finally work, I could finally make my own money. They never applied for a job, never did anything to make any money, never tried more than 1 to 5 times, never continued trying, never tried on a consistent basis. And they ask, and then matter of fact, no, they don't ask anything. They blame people. Oh, they're responsible for why I'm not where I am. You're not 7 anymore. You're not 12. You're not 13. You're not 15. And you're not even 17, 18. Some people are of working age, and they are still blaming people. People are telling them, they're like, okay, they're getting insight from people. Because sometimes people think that God is just like a voice in your head, or a voice that you hear and just tells you what you need to hear. But sometimes it's people. God, it takes people, the voices of people, the opinions of people, the emotions of people, and he says, okay, I'm going to use this person. They're going to come over here towards you. You may not like them. They're going to say something to you, and this thing that they say to you is either going to be a thing you think about and don't do anything about, think about and take action, or don't do anything at all. Something you just ignore, period. Or a situation where you know this person is right and you just ignore it. So sometimes God does not come to you as this voice. He comes to you, experiences, people, anything. He could come to you by a car driving in front of you. It could be a license plate. Because you know how some people, they have their custom license plate and they have like this name, this, I think it's like, I don't remember how many letters it has to be, or how many characters it has to be. I don't remember, but, and it could just be right there. And, you know, somebody will look at it like, okay. Somebody else will sit down and be like, oh, that's my answer. So at the end of the day, everything that I just talked about comes to this. You'll never know emotion until you know God. You'll never know emotion until you know yourself. You'll never know emotion until you try to find out yourself. What am I? What can I do? Who am I? Until you start asking questions about yourself, about God, if you start talking to God, asking God questions, sometimes people think, have you ever spent time, like it's really a consistent thing, because sometimes you may not hear anything, but that's okay. It's like doing sales, door-to-door sales. Every door you knock on might not say yes. That doesn't mean your pitch is bad. No, that doesn't have to mean your pitch can be bad. But that doesn't mean anything. There are people that will hear your pitch and still say, okay, gotcha. You can improve your pitch still. The problem is that people are not willing to knock on the door a few times and get a no. Or not get an answer at all. So maybe start asking God questions. So if you're an atheist or somebody who doesn't believe in God, everything I'm saying is gonna come back to whatever. And you ask God questions for a good, everybody's on their phone, they want to scroll all day, but have you ever thought of asking God questions for 3 hours? I know it sounds crazy, I know it sounds like a long time, but we're also scrolling on our phones for entertainment for the same 3 hours every day, really more than that. But there's people on here that scroll on their phone 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 12 hours, play games all day. Ask God questions for 3 hours. I know it sounds crazy, but say, God, I want to talk to you. I want to ask you a few questions. Said, I don't know if you'll be able to answer all my questions, but if you can just answer some, God, I said, God, I'll be grateful. Nobody has tried that. I'm not saying nobody at all. I'm saying people have not even tried that. So my thing is to know your emotions, to know certain things, maybe connect things to God. Start knowing God. Start asking questions to God. Start trying to figure out things about yourself. Ask questions. Ask some questions. Ask questions. You never tried. And even if you did, continue to ask questions. Try to figure yourself out. Sometimes our emotions are really sometimes are attached to decisions. It's a lot. It's attached to a lot. I can't say everything, but it's a lot. Like I said, like this video is technically is running for 30 minutes long. If I don't stop it somewhere. But your emotions are connected to your relationship with God, your faith, a lot of things. There's so many things that are connected to it. To your emotions. So many things that are connected to your emotions. But you gotta figure out what you want. Be honest with yourself. Some people lie. That's the other thing. Some people lie to themselves, to others. And instead of saying, you know what? But they lie to everything. They lie about everything. They lie to themselves. They lie to other people. Whether they love them or not. And all day, every day. They blame this, blame that. But have you ever studied yourself? Have you ever studied God for a little while? Have you ever read the Bible or considered reading the Bible? Have you used your own experiences to figure certain things out yet? What have you done with your time? Learn from your emotions. The last time I cried, what did I cry? What did I cry about? How long did I cry? How did that thing affect me? When did that thing affect me? Who made me feel this way? It could be, what did I do that contributed to this? Anything. Just ask yourself some questions. Find something out. We've flagged people so much for asking questions. And to be honest with you, that's how you're going to get where you need to go, by asking questions. You don't got to ask a gazillion questions, but ask questions. That's how we're going to get where we need to go. Sometimes everybody want to talk all day. Why do you want to talk all day? Sometimes you need to listen. I tell people sometimes that really know something that want to tell me stuff. I'm like, no, tell me. Tell me. Finish your sentence. And sometimes, depending on the person you're talking to, they get choked up. And they're like, oh, I didn't expect that. Yeah, talk. You want me to ask? Sometimes you gotta study people. Sometimes you gotta study a situation. It all, I'm telling you, it all bundles together. You gotta study a situation before you answer a question. Or you have to study something before you find something out. That's why teachers in school tell us to study. Now, ain't nobody want to study. But it's okay. There's a lot of things you don't want to do in this world, but you got to do it anyway. I bet our parents at a certain point, they ain't want to work. Grandparents ain't want to work. So what? Got to pay the bills, right? Let's work. It's time to go. So at the end of the day, you need to start studying stuff. So I tell people, like I said, I tell people that talk to me, that really know something, and they're like, oh, how do you feel about this? Or, or they'll say, or they ask me to finish their sentence, or whatever it may be. And I'm like, no, you talk. Talk to me. You know something I don't know. So if you know something I don't know, I want to hear you talk to me. I want to listen to you. I want to understand you. I want to know your motto. I want to know you. So I listen to them. Sometimes we talk too much. You want to talk all day, but you never want to listen. That's the problem. That's where emotions come in. Because you want to talk all day, but you don't want to listen. If you listen to understand instead of listening to talk back, sometimes there would be no reason to cry. So like I said, everything connects, because we can cry. That's cool. But sometimes there's no reason to cry. Sometimes we cry for no reason. Sometimes we cry for the most stupid things. It's crazy. But sometimes it's just because we need to listen. We need to learn how to listen to understand. Because I'll say this. If somebody says something to you, if you're a very emotional person, I'll just use this as an example, right? If you're a very emotional person and somebody says something to you, right? They say something that you may not like. Like that thing may hit you like, oh, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like that thing may actually hit you, like really hit you. That thing may be like, oh, okay. But you really have to think about this thing and long, like, I'm sorry, pause, I don't care, right? Long and hard, you got to think about this, right? If somebody says something to you that you didn't like, and you really sat and thought about it for a little while, like if you really, instead of like getting upset, you just sat and thought about it for a little while. After somebody says something to you, something, like I said, that may have sounded bad, or, you know, something that you may have not liked, and they said this thing. Have you ever actually sat down and thought about if they were right? Or what they could have meant by what they said? Or did you ever think to ask them what they meant after they said what they said? Or before you asked them what they meant, did you think about it? A little harder this time did you think about it? You didn't. So we're sometimes too fast to talk. Sometimes we need to listen more. Sometimes we need to listen more. Because if we understood where people were coming from when they said what they were saying, or where they were coming from, what they meant by what they said, we would be able to understand our emotions more. Sometimes we get that "how do you feel" too fast. Sometimes we get that "what did you learn" too fast. You need to understand something. Sometimes we just sit there, sometimes when we think, what did you learn? We sit there and we just sit there like, because we don't want to answer the question. What did you learn though? Like sometimes you gotta ask yourself that question. What did you learn? And sometimes people are too fast with, oh, what did you learn? What did you learn? No, everybody needs to understand something. So when teachers say stuff like that and they're like, you know, what did you learn? No, it's not about, no, don't do that. Wait. Listen, look, view, hear, and percept to understand something. That's why things are the way they are. So when whoever came up with that bright idea that men couldn't cry, and whoever said, whenever they said it, that women couldn't cry either, do you understand why you felt that way? Do you understand why you felt that way? People talk about all day about how they feel, but nobody wants to talk about why they actually feel that way. Everybody says, oh, point fingers at this person. This person is the reason I feel this way. Why do you feel that way? Ask that question, because maybe it's your fault this time. Because a lot of the time we think and we perceive and we say, oh, this person did this to me. Okay, but was it really them or was it you? We need to start asking ourselves that question. Was it you? Was it really, like, we have to, I'm sorry, but we have to ask ourselves that question. Was it the person's fault or was it our fault? We have to start asking. Is the reason we feel a certain way about what this person said, is it because they're right or because we're just being ignorant? The reason why we said what we said to this person, is it because they were wrong or is it because we are being ignorant? It goes both ways, technically. Is this person right about what they said about us? But we don't want to think about that. We just want to come back at people. So it's the same thing with crying. Before you start crying, one day maybe stop yourself and you say, why am I crying? That's why I also said to read the Bible, because God tells us not to do certain things, not to fear, not to worry, because sometimes we cry because of fear and worry. Sometimes he already told us not to fear and worry. So crying because we are scared or because we are worried, no, don't do that, because he told us not to. But once you know, I don't think people understand. If you know why you're crying, and you know, like, you have to learn. You have to learn how to express your emotions. Once you learn how to express your emotions, certain things will be crystal clear, easy for you. Just learn how to express how you feel. Because it's the same thing I just said. You can say all day, oh yeah, I don't like this person. Or they did this, they did this. Is it really because they did it, or is it because you're being an ignorant person? You're not considering people's feelings. Oh yeah, they did this, they did that. Okay, but is it really their fault? Is it really because they did something, or is it because you're just being rude? Just because you're being ignorant, you're not considering people's feelings. Think about that one day. So that basically concludes the video. Everything I summed up basically goes into this. God tells us not to feel certain things because fear and all of that stuff is not a thing of God. Fear, worry, all of that other stuff is not a thing of God. Sometimes the reason why we feel fear and we feel guilt, the reason why we feel fear and feel worry is because we are guilty sometimes. That's another thing. So make sure to not find yourself in a situation where you're guilty. So emotions are cool to have, but you have to know why you feel a certain type of way. And sometimes you may not be able to express how you feel in the moment. But that whole crying is not for men and not for women. It's not a gender thing. It's not like, oh yeah, whatever. No. It's about, do you know why you're crying? Do you know why you're having a certain reaction to this thing? Do you know why you feel this way? Ask yourself that question. Do you know why you feel this way? Or why do you feel this way? It's as simple as that. It's a long video. I might have to, put it in two. You know what I'm saying? This concludes the video, bro. If y'all have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can comment down below. You know what I'm saying? I can also, you guys can also follow my Instagram, which will be in the description, along with the description of the video. It'll be below there. You can DM me for personal DMs and stuff. Just follow me, then DM me so I know where you're coming from. If you don't necessarily have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could just let me know that you came from YouTube and that you are interested in what I'm talking about, and that's why you follow me. And either or, it doesn't matter. Just let me know what you're following me for. So I just know. You know what I'm saying? I'll see you guys in another video. Have a blessed rest of your day.